I have. I don't think I can get into that question about the relations. It's up to the Iraq people. But I just wanted to say that I said Shia and Sunni, this division is important. The serious one is that it's not, as I said, it's not because I have a prejudice against either one of the religions, but this religious difference has been closely connected with the powers under the previous government. And as a result, the sort of fault line has been created between the religious schools, between Sunni and Sunni. That is the reason why I listed this one as one of the elements for the obstacles.
We are running short of time, but we will extend it beyond 11:30 in order to give all 5 universities a chance. But let's shift to TNEC for a couple of questions from that end.
I was just wondering if anyone at the UN was aware of Saddam's ability to exploit the loopholes in the oil for food program in order to undermine the sanctions and further develop its military complex.
Okay. Second question.
Hi, my question is in regards to the topic of unity and ownership within a country. And I was wondering, how does a sense of unity and ownership become implemented into a nation? Is there a certain way that the leaders of that country go about winning over the hearts and minds of the people?
Let me take the first of these 2 questions myself, oil for food, because I've been following it rather closely, and then I'll hand it to both the ambassadors. The oil for food program was run by the Security Council. Each and every member of the Security Council was sitting in a committee. Each and every contract that was passed was checked, verified, rechecked in detail by this committee of the Security Council. The United States was one of the members who was present in that committee, and we know it for a fact that the examination by the United States was being conducted not only in New York, but also in Washington by the GAO, or the General Accounting Office. And so each and every contract went through because 15 members of the Security Council, including the United States, allowed that contract to go through. And so, ex post facto, to try to point fingers at the United Nations is just not acceptable. The United Nations is not the body which was doing this. There was a committee of the Security Council that was doing this. The United Nations was the postman, the post office through which this whole thing was being done. And as this whole story is unfolding, you will see that a lot of people made a lot of money on this deal. Some of them are in the United States, some of them are in other countries, but the whole process was nevertheless the result of a common endeavor. And so finger pointing at the United Nations just will not work. Would you like to add something to this?
No, actually this, whether I should call it a scandal or not, but the oil for food programs, how it was managed is now under investigated by the independent bodies. And I would like to wait for the result of the findings.
Well, I think that what's important that the name of so many people of different nationalities and some belonging to United Nations have been mentioned. But this is a great scandal, and what I hope that that will be taken into consideration quite independently from the questions which are required to be solved for the solution of Iraqi difficulties.
With reference to the second question, would you like to repeat that question? Because what I want to know is, we have discussed ownership a lot. What aspect of ownership leaves you in doubt, and what is your doubt in your question? Back to you at TNEC to amplify the question.
Well, I was basically wondering is there a certain technique? Are there programs that help a nation achieve a sense of unity? Is there something that the leadership does? If so, what options are there?
Yeah, I've got it. In the past, we have created a sense of ownership by having a person at the top, a Tito,
Yes.
or a King Zahir Shah.
Yes.
And that apex enabled us, because everybody was looking up to the apex, and so ownership was of the whole of the base. But now that we are getting rid of that, either through coup d'etats or through murders or whatever, and we've seen this happen in many places, not just in Afghanistan and in the Balkans or in Yugoslavia, but also in Rwanda. When the apex disappears, the question of ownership becomes much more diffuse. Now, it's very easy to say, well, the technique is re-establish a dictator at the top or a king at the top, and ownership will re-emerge automatically. But the technique that we are trying is to use elections, which is a vouloir vivre ensemble, a desire to live together through electoral processes in order to create common ownership. It worked in Japan. Do you think it'll work in Iraq?
Well, why not? I hope it will work. But if I say a few words about it, yes, the election is one way to create an acceptable authority. And once that acceptable authority is created, people will find it much easier to concentrate their effort for the nation building. So it's one desirable method that we should try to help in any country in the world. But there are also, as you said, there are many countries in the world with so-called failed states, and authority has gone, and it's not very practical to implement the election overnight. So, but the people, there are people, they are living, and we cannot let them continue to suffer under those circumstances. How do we cope with this kind of situation? As far as my country is concerned, we have been advocating the importance of the concept of human security. That is to say, without waiting the sort of effective national security, we should try to reach directly to individuals and individual communities and try to protect them and give some empowerment. It's a long process, I think, but by so doing, we are hoping that we will be able to somehow pave the way for the future ownership to emerge from there. Thank you.
I presume that neither of you is in favor of the re-emergence of dictatorship as a way of creating common ownership.
Yes, this is, I think you're quite right. We are not in favor of dictatorship, but we need in Iraq coming to a state that we have a government which takes care of different, I mean, the sense of ownership, political ownership, and political existence, not only to the Shia, which are majority as far as the Arab Iraq is concerned, but and the Sunnis of Iraq also, they have Democrats and good elements, and they are ready to cooperate, and they will cooperate in future. But in addition, I would like to say that the Kurds are all Sunnis. Most all of them are Sunnis. Therefore, it's a very delicate question. The Kurds being Sunnis and the speaking different language. In addition I mean, the intellectuals know Arabic, but the north of Iraq speaks Kurdish, and this is very important for us to think about a government which will take care of all these elements. And